right. Good afternoon, good morning, hello, and welcome to our, regular installments of CTC webinars. Today is number 3 in a multi-part series about cleaning your projects and maintaining standards in your Revit projects using the CTC Express tools. This, like I said, this is part 3 of the what's probably going to turn out to be about a 5-part series. So I'll try to recap things a little bit here based off what we did in part 1 and part 2. But so the issues that we're covering over this series is, kind of how we review Revit projects for and maintaining company standards throughout all of our projects and throughout the course of a project. And as we have been finding out that, maintaining Revit standards can be difficult, can be very time consuming, mainly because, we have so many files, potentially very large files. It takes Revit a lot of time to open, just to switch views, replacing outdated or bad content with current standardized content, and tracking all that stuff down and making sure that everything was up to par. So the purpose of this was just to show you what tools that we offer that can help with that. So in part 1, we covered model compare and the project snapshot exporter, and from the BIM project suite and model compare and the BIM data suite with the snapshot exporter. But then we also covered the project activity logger, or PAL, that's available both in the data suite and with our Hive content management system. The last part 2, we covered the dimension checker, schedule parameter resolver, and project link or project cleaner. Today, we are going to be covering import link manager and type swapper, also from the BIM manager suite. So today, we're going to, again, start off by reviewing some items that we've discovered have been troublesome, I guess, inside of the Power BI files that I was creating at the beginning of this, and going back then and using import link manager and type swapper inside of project environments to go ahead and clean up some content and update our link models a little bit here. So, and again, not going to kill you with a PowerPoint, so we will jump right into Revit and get going with this, or jump right into it. So part of what I went through in the first series was capturing the data, right? And I showed you how to do that using model compare and the snapshot exporter. And if you weren't around for the part 1 of the series, that can be found on our YouTube channel. And you can go ahead and see what model compare and data suite can do for you. And the Power BI file that we're looking at right now is the resulting information that we got from those data captures. And in this particular instance right now, I'm reviewing, meant to be on the links tab. So what we can do is gather information about the projects and their linked files. So I do have the ability to change what models we're looking at. And if I switch over to, say, this one, which is roughly what I'm looking for here, we can go ahead and update and take a look at the links and see how many of each one there are. So sometimes linked files get copied inadvertently. Chances are they're in the same spot and right over the top of each other, but then we can figure out, so we can determine if we've got duplicates and get those cleaned up if necessary. So in this case here, tells me I've got 4 Revit links and 1 image brought in, and kind of gives you an idea how they were brought in, if there was multiples. what the files are, work sets, creator. So you start to get an idea of what's here. And if you had access to, or not only access, but a basic understanding of how SQL works, Microsoft SQL, you can open up your SQL database and get even more information of those links. So right now, just by looking at this, I know that some of my links are incorrect because the date here is wrong. You know, this project has been upgraded over time and it should be married up with this particular file. I know we've gone through and upgraded files, but apparently they weren't reloaded in here. And I know that just by looking at the names of the files. So we get to go back and make those adjustments. So now you may notice that after reviewing a number of these projects that you have in your list here, that you have numerous files with links that need updating, right? We can go back now and utilize Import Link Manager to clean some of that up. So I'm gonna try to get back into Revit here. There we go. So if I quickly, I'm just gonna open up Manage Links so we can see kind of the issue. So in this case, I've got 1, 2 models that have the wrong version, right? I'm in Revit 2020 at the moment, but my electrical and mechanical models were not replaced with the correct version. So obviously I can just grab these, hit reload from, go take care of business. And this is a one at a time deal, which is fine. But maybe maybe I want to make sure that they're on the right work set, or that they're pinned correctly, or various other things, or maybe I needed, so I can do all of that from one spot. So Import Link Manager, it's part of the BIM Manager suite. I'm gonna go ahead and launch this guy. And so what I've got here is it right out of the gate, a list of everything. So, and this is anything that's been brought in as a reference into your project. So whether that's a Revit link, an AutoCAD link, an AutoCAD import, or an image file, or Rhino, or SketchUp, or whatever format it is, it will be tracked in this location. And then we have individual tabs to kind of parse this list down a little bit. The larger the project, more likely that the larger this list will be. So I'm going to focus on the Revit files for this example. And I can go ahead now and make sure that I get the latest and greatest set of stuff. So here I have 2 files that need to be updated. So, and nothing is pinned at the moment. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to reload everything. So I get to go ahead now and use the swap reload from and make sure that I'm in the right spot. So it's looking for these 2 originally, but I've gone ahead and upgraded everything and I renamed it. So here's my electrical model. Go ahead and hit open there. Once it's done loading, I'm gonna go ahead and pin that guy. Oh, hold on. Let's get this one first. And then load my mechanical. And then once those are all loaded, I'm gonna grab all 4 of them and hit pin. So there, I just selected all 4 of these links, pinned them, and we should be good to go. I also now have the ability to change what work set these are on. So in this case, this particular model is on my interiors work set. Now, just right out of the gate, I see that as a red flag because I typically generate a specific work set for linked files. And generally, if you know, with Revit files, they each get their own work set for the link, and that's just makes it easier for me to manage their visibility, where they're supposed to show or not show. Just for me as a BIM management, just a lot easier. So I can select this, and we have a change work set option here, so I can go ahead and change it to the appropriate work set. Now, in this case, I just made a new one called Revit link, so I'm going to put it there and call it good. But at the same time, since I'm here, we can review other things. I can change the reference type if it needs to be an overlay versus attachment. You know, by default, everything comes in as an overlay. You only do attachment in very unique situations, so I'm not going to change it. Sometimes you want to make them room bounding or not. In this case, I believe, I don't even know, this one's the site, so I'm not going to make it room bounding. But maybe you would make, you know, on the flip side, if you were in a mechanical model, maybe you'd make the architectural model room bounding, or something along those lines. So, but that's for the most part it. So now I can go and review other tidbits here and there. Everything else for now, for me, is good. So I'm just going to go ahead and call it a day, and sync up my model. Now, there's one other piece to the import link manager that I want to just point out and make sure that everybody is aware of. And that is the ability to do this without actually opening the file per se. So let's say, I mean, I'll just do these right here. I just worked with these earlier. I have this mechanical and electrical model. Say we just upgraded those, and I want to go ahead and make sure that their links are set up correctly. You actually have a manage Revit project links through your right-click menu. So once you've installed the BIM Manager suite, this will be available. So you can go ahead, right-click on any Revit file, and it will effectively open the import link manager window, and it'll give you a quick little peek at what is currently loaded in. So at this point, my arc and struct models appear to be okay, but the electrical model is not. So I can fix that. So whether it's load from file or a folder, so I am gonna go do that. Revit models 2020, and there it is. So you hit that, and away we go. And then I can hit apply effectively. Okay, so now what I need to do effectively later on is make sure that so it's effectively put that into memory. So at some point, I need to open that file up and just save it so that it will lock those changes in. But I don't effectively need to touch it now. It's just the next time I open it, it's going to lock all that stuff in. So I'll be okay. But that's kind of what it does. It allows you to, you know, the whole point though, for me at least, is to quickly get an idea of what's linked in and is it loaded or not. So that's the quick thing for me to do. And that's how I primarily use it. And oftentimes I'll go ahead and do that on a file that I've received. Go ahead and make adjustments to it real quick, or on something I may be sending out soon. Example, say this AutoCAD file, or the Revit files for that matter, potentially. I want to make sure that they are set to be relative paths so that when I bundle everything up and send it off, that everything kind of comes in together already. So I could go ahead and switch files to be a relative path if they weren't, and make sure that everything functioned correctly once it was passed along. So oftentimes that's kind of how I use the right-click manage links option that we've provided. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, that's about it with Import Link Manager. And then I suppose I should point out, I don't really have a good example of it, but it works with CAD files. And you know what? Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and I can do it. And it's just I just want to show you guys. So if I go ahead and do a swap reload from and go browse to another CAD file, let's say. Got one out here. And which one did I beat to? Let's just say it's this one. When you reload the files or load it in, let's per se, or reload from another location, this window will pop up allowing you to determine how you want to bring this file in, right? Do you want to import it? Do you want to link it, right? What's the placement options you want to choose from? Do you want to preserve the color scheme, switch it over to whatever Revit decides, or convert it over to a black and white setup? You can pick layers that you want, import units. You know, it's almost exactly like linking an AutoCAD file in fresh. Okay, so I have the ability to do this, and I can change what the host view originally was. If it's being imported into if I'm importing it, I can choose what view to import it into, if that's necessary. So, so this one's pretty slick. And the beauty of it is you can kind of manage all this stuff from one location, both CAD and Revit and image and whatever else you bring in. And in a lot of cases, CAD files should be pinned, especially CAD files. Come on, there we go. So I can go ahead, verify that those guys are pinned. These two are imports, same files imported. Do they need to be imported or should they just be linked? So, yeah. So, and if it is an import, you can basically do a reload from on it and then turn it into a linked model. So this one's saved there. If I were to go ahead and LL, didn't like that because there's duplicates, it's in here multiple times. So, and looks like they're both in the same, nope. Okay, so this one I don't need. That's in my view. I don't care to have it. Now I can get this cleared up. There we go. And these are some of the things that you may run across while doing this stuff. Well, it still sees it in here from another spot. So, yep. Imported in 3. Yep, look at that again. So pull it off one more time. The joys of imported CAD files. There we go. Now let's turn that into a link and switch everything over to black and white. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. I didn't realize I was that sloppy. So, but that's the idea. It allows you to, makes it a little bit easier to manage some of this stuff, which is the whole point. So, all right. The next tool that I want to cover with you guys is Type Swapper. Also from the BIM Manager Suite. And, Type Swapper does kind of a host of good things for you. So there are instances where you'll have duplicate families, or, when you say insert drafting views from your detail library, right, or from another project. Oftentimes you'll get those messages from Revit saying, this family already existed into, we renamed this one to be generic family 1 instead of just using what was already in the project because they didn't want to interfere with anything, right? That happens all the time. And this tool allows us to clean up those duplicate families that come in from, inserting details or inserting groups for that matter that have other annotations in them, and cleaning that stuff up so that we are using the right families, or that way there's no confusion. Users aren't accidentally using the wrong family because they didn't notice that there was a number 1 at the end. They just saw the name and went with it. So in this case here, I've got 2 instances where I've got families likely brought in when I loaded up, when I copied some stairs that I liked from one project to the next. Got some duplicates here. So I have the ability to swap it with another family of the same category. So in this case, I would look for the appropriate family type to do the swap. So in this case, it's already picked it out for me, and I have the ability now to want to delete the duplicate when I'm done. So I do have this delete option in here. If you would rather delete that on your own separately in a separate step, you can uncheck this box and hit swap. But if you would like to save yourself a little bit of extra time hunting and pecking for those other families, or flat out remembering what they were, you can just kill it all on one shot. So yes, I do want to delete the duplicates. So it's going to go ahead, replace them, yank them out, give me a little message here letting me know that it was successful. And now there's no more duplicates. So tab 1 complete, right? Now, the next couple of tabs here, specifically with dimensions and text, gets, these lists can be extremely lengthy, depending on, how defined, how well defined your templates are, right? And how much changing or adjustments have happened over the years. And depending on what your users feel like they need to do on a per project basis and where they're pulling details from, right? This list can be hundreds of lines long, depending on where information is coming from. So in this case, mine's pretty clean. However, I do have a couple of things in here that I am not a fan of just even seeing, right? Thankfully, they're not being used. So in this case, I can grab these 2 kind of oddballs and just delete them. Let's get them out of here. So that it's not even an option at this point. And now I've got a handful on this other style, and I don't believe I need those personally. I would probably I can swap them out to this rather easily. But if you needed to double check on that first, what you can do is shut this down, go find those, verify that, yes, those are what you need or what you don't need. Otherwise, you go ahead and change it to what you want here. And when you hit swap, it's gonna grab those dim styles and effectively change the type for you. And then in this case, everything's left behind. If you want to delete those, you got to hit delete manually on your own. So from now, I'm just going to go ahead and leave those. Text, same thing. Oftentimes this list is longer than what you see here. Mine's fairly cleaned up, and but same rules apply. Sometimes people make their own fonts and they call it Arial 332nd instead, or old font styles from years past have found their way into your projects because people loaded details from an old project, right? But didn't clean anything up. They just loaded them in and called it a day. So this is where things would need to get cleaned up. In this case, I know I don't really care for this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap that over to the new Arial one that I've made down here. Go ahead and delete that one. And I think we're in good shape now. So these next couple ones, line styles and line patterns, are extremely useful, especially if line types and patterns and such are finding their way into your projects from AutoCAD, right? Whether that is because a file was imported or, God forbid, exploded in the project, which happens from time to time, you will get additional information in here that you wouldn't typically have. So in my line patterns specifically, these imports, right? And if any of you have tried to clear this out just using the out of the box line style and line type tools, you all know that it's delete, click OK, delete, click OK, delete, click OK. Like, it's a lot of extra picks and clicks that you wouldn't normally think you'd need to do, right? So in this case, I can just select all of these ones that say import and just hit delete. Success. Those are all gone. So at the very least now, I've gotten rid of the gobbledygook that no one should ever have. And then on the flip side, we have additional styles and things that are used that we should also be getting rid of. So here we have this oddball one at thin lines. I'm going to go ahead and put it at line weight 2, just because that's where it should be. Oops. Go ahead and swap that one just real quick. Okay. And then, you know, now I can go through and, again, delete stuff if I don't want them. Some of these we can't do much with, like the sketch lines. Those are floor sketch lines or ceilings or, you know, things that have internal boundaries, right? You're not going to replace those. They kind of need to stay how they need to stay a lot of the time, okay? So I wouldn't, you know, these you don't have to touch. Area boundaries are area boundaries. Room separations, same thing. Those are set up. Those are what they are. So, and then just to keep, and then, you know, it becomes a cleanup thing here in this case. Delete what you don't want. Okay. Fill patterns is another one of those where you could potentially end up with a bunch of undesirable fill patterns that have made their way in from AutoCAD, right? So some, you know, oftentimes we don't necessarily know which ones are that unless they are labeled clearly. So you know, this isn't going to tell us where it came from, unfortunately. But you know, if you've got duplicates, you kind of can pick out the ones that are supposed to be bad or not supposed to be there. And what's really kind of slick about this is here, for example, the sand ones. It tells you the materials that they're, or it tells you that it's attached to some materials here as well. So, you know, in this case, this one is kind of an oddball. I don't know where it's coming from, but I want it to be with the other sand option. So I'm going to go ahead and swap that out with that one, right? And then see if there's anything else that I want to clear out. There's this stone 00. I don't know where that one came from. So I'll probably have to look into that a little bit further. And diagonals, earth, I mean, these are all pretty out of the box. So I'm just going to swap that one. It updated the 3 materials. That's awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. And to avoid any additional confusion in the future, I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. And I'm just gonna hit delete selected. I could delete all unused patterns from this list, but you know, I'm not certain at this point which ones people are still going to want to need, and I don't want to cause them to have to redefine some of this stuff. So I'm just going to delete the one that I got. Yep, there we go. And then the last one, materials. This one's relatively new. We just released this in an update earlier this summer, I believe, and you know, it does what it says it's going to do. It allows me to swap materials with another one. Okay, so you know, take your pick, really. So if I go find ceiling tiles, this will actually take any object in your model that has this material applied and assign whatever material you swapped it to from this list here. So let's see. How about we take, well, let's back out a second here, and I'm gonna grab something and add that material to it. Okay, so here, let's add something just so you can see it kind of happening here, right? So let's find something that is worth switching. How about we just add this dimensional lumber one? Okay, go back to type swapper, back to materials, and let's go find wood dimensional lumber here. I am going to switch that. Let's see, what's a good one here? How about we just go ahead. Let's choose this wood ICS oak one. How about that? That sounds good to me. And we'll go ahead and choose that from the list. And we're gonna hit swap. Oh. Nope, not that one, I guess. All right. Let's try another one. Actually, let's do this. I got a better idea. All right. Here we go. Which one's being used? All right. So just for the sake of doing this, let's go ahead and make it the 2x4, which screws everything up. And you know, I bet that sounds like a didn't save message. So let's do this again. So in this case, now I've got this pattern. I want to switch to that pattern. Let's go ahead and hit swap. Well, that's fun. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, then. I shouldn't have messed with a good thing. I played with stuff today, obviously, before my demo, getting ready, and I hope I didn't break it. Well, all right. I'm not going to sit here and troubleshoot this while I'm on the call with you guys. So, but it works. I know it does. Just don't know why I broke it. So at any rate, that's the intent though. So what type swapper allows us to do, kind of as a whole now, is allows us, one tab at a time to find items in the model that are, not ideal or have been brought in from an older project file or another project file that, don't follow our standards. So now I can go ahead, swap all of those out, consolidate everything down, delete stuff if necessary, right? And continue on with my day. And then at this point, now that I've done a lot of this extra cleanup, this might be where we pop it back into our snapshot tools, whether it's Project Snapshot Exporter or Model Compare, take another snapshot of a model to review now back inside of Power BI to make sure that, it reflects those changes and we don't notice anything else that needs to be addressed, right? Or clean it up, review it, give it the thumbs up, move on to the next project file and start working from there. So yeah, that's all I've got for you today. So with that, I will set you all free. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all.